Hello, Muck Reviews here, and today I'm taking a look at West of Dead. If you like my reviews, please stick around and subscribe so you don't miss my future videos. Developed by Upstream Arcade, West of Dead is a new twin-stick top-down shooter that sees you making your way through procedurally generated rooms and hallways, dungeon crawler style. What grabs your attention immediately with this game is its gorgeous art style. Its moody cell shading makes you feel like you're not just moving from room to room, but page to page of some graphic novel. It's got attitude, maybe a bit cliched, but you are the Lone Ranger making your way through the land of purgatory that melds elements of the real world and a demonic realm. The famous actor Ron Perlman, known best recently for roles in the likes of Hellboy and Sons of Anarchy, lends his vocal talents to the game. He's fantastic, and it really does a lot to sell you the world, the deadly serious and gritty quality of his delivery anchoring the game and giving weight to the Western genre.
There's a darkness, then a heartbeat, weak, sickly.
Your character, identity not fully understood, is tasked with taking down the game's main villain, the Preacher, who is preventing unfortunate souls from moving on from purgatory. You and your flaming skullhead have to track him down through various levels. Every time you start a new run, you spawn in this bar and move on from there, and are immediately assigned to random weapons. There are a range of weapons to choose from in the game, and you can swap and change them as you come across them through the levels. You can hold two at a time, one on the left trigger and one on the right. Rifles are the standard choice, holding down their fire button charges up the weapon's accuracy and damage. Shotguns are short range but high damage and able to hit multiple targets, and pistols sit somewhere in between but can fire as fast as you can pull the triggers. Although they mostly fit into these categories, there are notable differences in abilities that give them all their own style, like causing bleeding effects, causing critical hits, or just having considerably more capacity. There are even some very unique weapons like a mortar and a pistol where its bullets seek out enemies, but these costly items need to be bought from the witch. Reloading occurs when the action stops, so you'll have to pause your fighting and dodge or take cover before you get firing again. Some weapons have much longer reload times than others, and it's something you'll have to consider. On top of your weapon choices, there are also 2 slots for abilities and charms. Abilities can provide passive buffs like shields and increasing reload speed, or can take the form of more offensive items like throwing knives and dynamite that cause damage to enemies. Charms provide special bonuses like being able to recover portions of health just lost by taking cover or performing a great dodge. The game starts with a good selection of all these items, but more are unlockable via the witch and spending the game's in-game currency. As you progress through the levels, you'll accumulate little glowing orbs called Sin. You can then spend these to unlock new weapons, abilities, and more health potion uses. Progress into purchasing these things carries between deaths, and once something is bought, it is then discoverable within the game. There's a lot of options here, and people will discover what works best for them, but I personally thought it seemed a little imbalanced. The workhorse, for example, a rifle with 5 bullets before reloading instead of the usual 3, felt like a must-have on every run. And with the abilities, there's a lot of creativity, but when it comes down to it, the shield was vastly more powerful than anything else. You can even fill up both slots with a shield and be invulnerable for lengthy stretches, which is just so much more powerful than say a hatchet or dynamite that can take a portion of health from an enemy, but generally not considerably more than a normal bullet would. Some of the prices for these weapons too also felt very high, taking many hours of committed spending into one item, like guns with 500 sin and over. It's just too grindy, and the game doesn't really have the amount of content to justify keeping you in its world for these lengths. If you commit, you may get one during a normal playing of the game, but it will be at the expense of trying out other things. Now with the levels, I was impressed initially with the seamlessness of the procedural elements. Every time the level is a new maze, and you never know which way is the right one. Levels have constants within them. They always have a number of upgrade stations where you can improve your health, damage, or item effectiveness. There's always a loot box with a high rated item, and there's always a trader selling 3 things that you can buy for iron, the game's other in-game currency. Rooms often have lamps in which you can turn on to help you. They illuminate the room, allowing you to more easily target enemies, and it also causes a stun effect on ones in range, giving you free shots or time to get behind cover. Cover works really well and allows you to effortlessly attach yourself to it, slide into it, and vault over it. Levels are filled with teleports that allow you to quickly move around the sections you've discovered and more quickly go back into the ones that you haven't. Before you get this ability though, you'll have to defeat this guy. There are a few boss fights, but really it felt like there should have been more. The unique ones were highlights, but only playable once and then replaced by a standard outlaw mini-boss that are not particularly hard to deal with, although they do put you in the shoes of the people you spent your time shooting at, as they use cover well and try to outmaneuver you. So this is a roguelike game, meaning that there's permadeath. Die and you'll have to start your run again from the beginning. Obviously that can lead to frustration, but that's just part and parcel of the game. That being said, I do think that there were some problems with the game. Firstly, the jump in difficulty between the first and second stages seemed pretty stark. The first stage is a breeze and then suddenly you're dropped into a stage with some of the most enemy diversity and what will be a surprise boss fight. Early on, before you upgrade your health potion, there's no way you're getting through this section without dying multiple times. This leads to having to go through the most boring part of the game too many times, a very early feeling of repetitiveness. Once you pass level 2, the next few stages in my opinion are probably easier, which I don't think is great pacing. The game is buggy too, and this can cause you to die. Freezing solid, your guy disappearing, cover that flickers in and out, the camera stopping you from seeing the room well, or just not following your guy completely. There are quite a few things that need fixing here. Aiming can be frustrating as it locks you onto enemies that you aren't aiming at, stopping you from killing threats right in front of you, even in well-lit areas. Enemies within light always take precedent over ones that are apparently in the dark, even though they are clear to you. You will die because of this. The game seems to be stuck in two minds when it comes to playstyle. Clearing a room quickly and on the move is invigorating. Nailing cover slides, rolls, your abilities, managing the dangers, it can make you feel like John Wick. But as the higher difficulties and the new areas roll around, the cost of dying becomes so high that you can be easily tempted to put this to the side, using cheap tricks, taking out enemies one at a time, or generally playing extremely cautiously. Being caught out by a new enemy was one of the top ways of dying, and so managing your health bar becomes the overwhelming priority, and the run and gun aspect gets ignored. Whilst the first time going through an area you'll be impressed again by the game's great style and dark tone, and the second and third time, the procedural nature lengthens its lifespan a bit. Beyond that, the game does feel repetitive, there's no getting around it. Subsequent chapters add outlaw mini-bosses into old levels, and the burden system, where you help people in return for loot and have to kill a number of enemies without taking a hit, or you immediately die. But at the end of the day, some people are not going to enjoy playing over things they've already done for hours just for the chance of experiencing something new. There is a kind of narrative within the game which is discovering your identity through memories you can collect for the witch to decode. These give you a nice blast of colourful monologue from Perlman, which is moody and intriguing alongside some cool artwork, but it's not a lot more substantial than that. It seems strange to me that given the quality of the voice work there is, other characters in the game were left as text only, must have used all their budget up on Ron. Summing it up, West of Dead is a stylish and decent twin-stick shooter, with a good amount of variety in its levels, enemies and items to entertain you with. The game starts off addictive, making you want to try and try again to experience that next level, but when new ideas seem to slow a bit and hours of play have restarted for what you might consider cheap or buggy death, that desire to keep plugging away definitely begins to dwindle, meaning you probably won't experience most of the game's items due to a pretty stingy currency distribution. Voice work is great, and the tone of the game is definitely one of its highlights. The story isn't overly compelling, but at least it's delivered well. I give West of Dead a 7 out of 10. Have you played this game? What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. See you later.